On this episode of the podcast, I have with me George Bezerra. He is the VP of Data Science at Frontdoor. We're going to be talking about how a traditional business environment can take advantage of new technologies, especially on what machine learning and data science can do, what AR they have in store for it. He has some really interesting things that they're working on, and I'm really excited to have you on, George. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. I'm very excited to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know previously you had mentioned to me some of the cool stuff you guys are working on. And just to kind of set context for everyone listening, tell us a little bit about what Frontdoor does, just to kind of have an idea, and then we'll kind of dive into the topic.
The primary thing we do is to sell home warranties. And what a home warranty is a package that you buy as a customer. If you're a homeowner, you buy that package on a yearly basis. And if something goes wrong with your home, let's say your plumbing system goes wrong or electrical or appliances, if any of that breaks, then you can just call us and we bring someone to your house and that person will fix the problem. So we leverage a large network of contractors and we can then find the best contractor that will help solve the problem at your home. So that's primarily what we do. We also have on-demand services, new products that we're growing, and I can talk about some of the new products as well.
Yeah, I guess when you have an existing business that's been around for a long time, I mean, some of these core brands have been around for a very long time. The innovation part is important to them, right? Like they need to, we talk about digital transformation, obviously, is the big topic for companies and how they can leverage technology. So you were brought in to kind of start looking at those different projects. Is that kind of your mandate?
That's correct. Yeah. So Frontdoor sits on top of brands that are legacy in the sense that they've been out there for 40 years or more and very successfully so. But what that means is they've been doing business the same way for a long time. And so the idea of building Frontdoor on top of these brands is to invest in technology and invest in data. That's where I came in, invest in data science, because there's a belief that data science can help make our company more efficient, make our customers happier. And so that is one of the reasons why I was brought in to build that data science function, to start identifying opportunities and start tackling those problems to deliver value. So that's really where I came in. And it is true, there's a lot of opportunity here, which is great. Yeah, it's good to be in that position.
Yeah, and I guess when you start to come in and you're looking at some of the older processes, I mean, probably some of these have been around for 30, 40, 50 years or 10 years or whatever, because I mean, not much in terms of the home insurance. Some of it's fundamental. You have an issue, you call, somebody comes in and, takes a look at what's wrong. They can either fix it or not. When it comes to your challenge and you're coming in and trying to evaluate the business, what are the high level things that you're talking about looking for as those area of opportunities that you can potentially help the company shift and take advantage of technologies?
So us as a company, we provide a service, right? So what happens is that in providing that service, we use a lot of people. And so we have a massive call center to take calls to help, with customer issues, but also with contractor issues. And so there is a lot of costs that goes into that, a lot of people and a lot of inefficiencies that go. It's just a model that doesn't scale very efficiently. As you want to add more customers, you have to add more people in the call center, for example, right? And agents and et cetera, et cetera. So yes, Frontdoor has traditional problems that any company is going to have, like marketing. I need to send a mail to who are my customer base that I'll have the highest conversion rate. I need to build a media mix model. I need to build a bidding optimization algorithm, etc. So there's a lot of work that goes there. There is finance, where you want to do forecasting and predict the trajectory of the business. You want to see what's the customer lifetime value, all of that. We also have some of our new products which are on demand, where we have the website, right? And people come in and we want to maximize the conversion rate. And so those are problems that you're going to find in a lot of companies. And I have personally worked in a lot of those problems. But Frontdoor has some pretty unique problems which are in the area of those services and operations, right? Running the operation of the business, those operations are expensive. That sector is very expensive. And that's where I think, if you apply machine learning techniques and data science techniques, That's where the value really is, that is unique and differential from other industries. So I'm working on problems now that I have never worked before. And I don't know if you want to get into details, but things, for example, whenever someone, let's say you have a problem in your house and you want to call us, right? Now we have to assign a vendor. What is the best vendor, right? And we don't want to do this using a human. We want to do this using an algorithm, right? And so we can think about recommender systems, techniques that you can apply to optimize that and make that process not only not require humans in the loop, but also make the best choice that no human could make that choice in at scale, right? So that type of improvement, you're really talking about millions and millions of dollars from deploying a single algorithm. And then from there, let's say that we do dispatch a contractor to go to your home, and let's say a refrigerator is broken, and you need to decide whether do you replace that appliance or do you fix the appliance, right? It might not be so easy. Maybe fixing it now is a good thing, but then that's going to break again in a few months, right? So again, with machine learning, you can optimize that decision so that you improve performance, minimize costs, maximize efficiency. And then let's say that the contractor has found what's wrong and they know what's going to be fixed and they know how much it's going to cost. Now they have to call us to get an authorization to make sure that they're not overcharging us. And so rather than talking to an agent, you can deploy an algorithm that looks at the cost and based on the history of other costs, based on what we know about the customer, about their appliance, about the weather, about the time of the year, about anything, can predict whether that cost is really the right cost. So I would say, yes, we're always going to need humans in the loop, but we can optimize that by a large factor and have those humans who add value in a different area of the business. So that's just a few things to touch on. Those are problems that I have never worked with before. I've done a lot of e-commerce recommender systems. I've done computer vision. I've done marketing work, but it's about modeling the problem, finding the opportunity, and using the new techniques that we have available.
Absolutely. Obviously, the underlying problem-solving skills is intangible across all the industries. And some of what you're talking about is the deep dive into some of the nitty-gritty of your business. And I guess in a business where some of these brands have been around for 50, 60 years, the data they have is probably staggering. And the amount of learning that's actually done to this point is very minimal. So these are probably massive uplifts in terms of, the margins that a company will see in terms of, all of a sudden, hey, that replace versus fix scenario saves us, however many points per incident. That's got to be staggering.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the figures are huge. But I would say it's not easy. Like, it's not just go there and do it. I'll tell you there are challenges, right? I think from past experience, I'm totally sold on the opportunity. I know the value is there, and I know we can get there. There's no question. But getting there is challenging because we're talking about a company that has never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is no infrastructure for that, right? We're building that from scratch. And we have to deal with the amalgamation of old technology with new technology. And the old technology does add a lot of constraints. And then let's say that you do add an algorithm. Now we have to change the processes around that. How are agents going to deal with this new system and changing the processes that they've been used to for so many years? That is also a challenge. And finally, I think there is the idea that, yes, I understand that data science is going to go there and we're going to deploy an algorithm and this problem is solved. But most people do not see that, right? Because they haven't seen it before. So there is a certain level of expected, I would say, skepticism where, it's why do I need to do this fancy algorithm? Why can't I just continue to do the way I've been doing always, right? So I would say that it's not all flowers. It's been very, very challenging. We're moving forward. Oh, yeah. We're moving forward. We're getting our first algorithms deployed very soon, but it's been an interesting experience.
Yeah, and I guess as you're trying to position more future plans and you're trying to bring in maybe new technologies that can help the company, I guess how much of your time is spent kind of more like in a lab setting where you're trying to think of what technology can we bring in to help maybe give us capabilities we never had, or maybe, make us more efficient or those type of things?
So I think I wouldn't say that I'm in a steady state at this point. I'll talk about what the steady state is and what I have been doing. So what I had done to start with was to map out the opportunities. So understand the business as much as possible and start to think about what are some of the problems that we can solve and where's the money, right? If I solve this problem, how much money am I going to save or make? So that is really the building that roadmap and that business case and showing the value, establishing relationships with stakeholders for them to understand that they do want to partner up with us. And so I did a lot of that and have been doing it still. But I think in a steady state, you always want to be up to date with the literature to know about new techniques that you can bring. Sometimes there is a new technique that was, created that actually solves your problem. And I would say having a reading group with your team is super important. Always reading new papers and doing new, let's say, watching YouTube videos or new courses or conferences. I think that's key. And allowing the team to experiment, having them fail and try new things just for the sake of trying. We know that if we went out there and asked, I don't know, maybe my boss or his boss, or should we be working on this? They probably say no, because I don't know that this is going to give me revenue right now. But we need that room because out of those mistakes, and we're going to learn and new solutions are going to come about. So having that as part of the culture of your team, where you're always bringing new things and encouraging them to try it out just for the sake of trying it out and learning, I think that is super important. I would say I don't do as much of that, but my team does, right? So that the idea, the team is focusing on doing that. I used to do that, a lot of that. My role is more on encouraging them and rewarding them for taking risks and trying new things.
Yeah, and also I guess, from that standpoint, as you guys are coming up with, these tests and taking new capabilities to the organization, how does that change? Like, again, you guys are in a unique position where some of the underlying brands have been around a long time, existing processes. How is the perception of your team, your environment in terms of, hey, these are the guys that are disrupting what I'm doing? Or is it, hey, these are the guys that are actually helping me, become more efficient?
That's a very important question there. I think it depends on you, right? Like it depends on who is taking charge and leading the initiative. I've seen both. I've seen cases where, you go there and you bring in new technology and you're changing the way people are doing things, and people get sensitive about that and they can be defensive. And when that happens, it derails the whole thing. Everything slows down. And especially I would say if you are less seasoned, you might be the one that you're very ambitious, you want to go and show your work and you're a bit competitive, but that generates friction. You might actually get what you want and get your algorithms deployed and get developed and get the recognition, but you sever some ties and burn some bridges along the way. I don't think that's the most productive way. I think the most productive way is collaboration, and always frame the interaction as a collaboration process. Yes, I could ignore everything that someone is doing and push for deploying a new machine learning algorithm, but you want that business support. You want that person to ask for you to work with them. And that takes a lot of skill. That takes a lot of time and involvement, a lot of hand holding. But I think that's the long lasting way. So your question was like, do people see that as in a defensive way? I would say, no, I don't think so, because I've put a lot of work into building and establishing those relationships, and share the credit and say the credit's not mine, it's ours. So it is a very natural reaction. I've seen people make that mistake, but I actually love this type of problem, right? The human problem, as we talked about in a previous episode. I value that very much, like building that relationship and building that collaboration. Always go for that in that direction, because people can get defensive when you're bringing in some new technology or some new technique and so on.
Yeah, and I guess from, when it comes to changing the processes and having somebody who previously you mentioned there's a contractor that's sitting in your home, he's trying to determine, let's say, from traditional perspective, am I going to send the invoice for this much or that much? And, the insurance company has to approve it, not approve it. And you have one person sitting on the other side listening to this, trying to make a decision what's best for the company, the customer, the vendor. Everyone has a stake in it. And all of a sudden now they're potentially leveraging some kind of machine learning algorithm in the background to go, hey, this is what you need to do. It might actually take some pressure off of them because they probably, when you have a homeowner calling up and their air conditioning's gone out in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees outside, they're sweating inside their home. They just want it fixed. And, you're already probably getting those calls from those, angry customers. The last thing you need is to kind of go, how do I evaluate this? And now you have a machine learning algorithm that goes, I recommend we should do this. That's got to be good for them.
Right. So think about it, right? If rather than calling a person and waiting for minutes to hours until that problem gets resolved and they can finally get an authorization to go and fix the problem, you can get the answer instantly, right? And only in the tough cases where there is a lot of money involved and the algorithm is uncertain of whether the cost is right or not. Those are the interesting cases because, the work might be a bit mundane, right? But the algorithm will be solving the mundane cases instantly. And whenever it doesn't know what the right answer is, it would send a human, and the human would then work on that more interesting problem. So they can work on the more interesting cases, spend more time on that, and less time on trivialities and clicking buttons and filling out forms, right? There is always going to be a human in the loop. And in the sense that, as I mentioned, the algorithm might not know what the right solution is. And there is always going to be cases where it's uncertain that has to be routed to a human. The human makes a decision, and then that gets back into the database, goes into the training data, the algorithm learns and keeps getting better over time. But we're always going to have that human in the loop. So in a way, they're going to have their job. They're just going to be working on more interesting problems.
Yeah, and also providing better customer care. If they don't have to manage, 30, 40 cases in a day, they can spend their time, like you mentioned, there's, 6 outlier cases in a day that they can really spend their time to figure out how to help the customer to get through the problem. That probably helps the overall customer experience. I've called into those home insurance and you are on hold for 75 minutes to 4 hours in the summer if your heat pump or AC goes out. And by the time you pick somebody up on the phone, you're just so happy they're talking to you. And you know that person's nonstop on the phone. But, if they don't have to do that, if they can take a step back and all of a sudden focus on the actual experience, the quality that they're providing, that's a big uplift, I think.
That's a very good point. Yeah. And they can make fewer mistakes, right? And just provide more attention to the customer. So I think we're spot on. And it is the idea, like ultimately, it is the belief of our leadership that we want to invest in the customer experience. And that's where we're thinking about not short-term, but long-term gains for the companies by having that differential customer experience. Because, this sector in the past has not been known for having great customer experience, right? And that's where Frontdoor comes in. By investing in technology, we will enable better customer service, better customer experience. And from there, we have faithful customers that will stay with us for a long time.
Absolutely. Some interesting stuff, man. I think you might have come from some e-commerce backgrounds. You're solving some different customer problems, but it sounds really exciting. Thanks for being on and kind of sharing some of the challenges of kind of helping a larger legacy-based organization that they're facing.
I appreciate it. I really like the opportunity to speak about the work we're doing. There's a lot more that we're doing. And so thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And we'll include George's LinkedIn handle. If anybody has a follow-up question, you can feel free to reach out to him. And that's it for this episode. We'll be back again. Always ask for 2 things of you guys. One is love the attention we're getting from the subscriptions. Just, keep subscribing. That's the way Apple and Google and Spotify all kind of promote the podcast, by the number of subscribers. So it's been going awesome. And then also send through those topics. That's really been helpful in terms of lining up future guests. But until next time, thank you.